There we go. Just do a quick old test. Why are you being so slow today? Set. Do not care. That's Kirby sending me screenshots for something, I believe. Right. Right, please tell me Wi-Fi you're going to actually work with me. That would be appreciative. Thank you. Come on. Yep. Yep. Yep, I'm just currently trying to get this to want to work with me because it's currently being annoying. Okay, we're in, as I can see. Hopefully it's now coming through properly. Right, make sure my audio is coming through fine. I think that's all good. I think we are good to go. My stream's been a little bit funny, so I'm going to have to put this up on my phone to make sure stuff's working properly. Right, I believe we are live. More Wi-Fi does this. Right. I believe we are indeed live. I'm just going to put this up on my phone because it's going to be a pain to try and do otherwise, just so I can check my audio levels. We are indeed good. Okay. It does not want to put on this for some reason. It's just being annoying and just buffering. So, we are indeed live. Oh, sorry about the confusion and all of that going on. Welcome everyone to the Japanese Grand Prix from the Suzuka circuit. Alongside me tonight, as per from last week, it is going to be Cal 17 F1. If you want to just have your audio included, so that we ever hear your voice in the your beautiful voice.
Yeah, hello everybody, and welcome to what is looking to be a very interesting Japanese Grand Prix here at Suzuka.
Thank you very much for your great intro there, Cal. Obviously a track with a lot of heritage in terms of, I believe, the only figure 8 track on the F1 calendar. What are we expecting to see on this?
I'm expecting a lot of decent action, especially probably down the pit straight and then down the back straight over the bridge and into 130R. And then into the chicane possibly as well, and maybe into the hairpin as well. Those three places would probably be where most of the side-by-side action could be taking place in the race.
Indeed so. Obviously 27, I believe it's well the 5-lap race, and then it'll be the 27 laps ahead of the drivers ahead of the drivers for tonight's race. So it looks like we have clear weather for qualifying, but big talking point since the 1.15 patch is the reintroduction of the ability to choose an extra set of, will change your tyre compounds really in all this, as I believe I've just lost connection to the lobby.
What is
Great
going
start.
on here?
Again. I have lost connection. The session again. There are not enough. I think I have indeed lost connection.
That is interesting.
I hate it. This did this to me yesterday as well. Good one.
Well, I guess take two, I guess.
Just a second. Yeah, bear with me, just while I go and just get myself back into the lobby again. Because I think this is not being fun. There we go. Oh, of course. Let me just give a second. The screen will go black for a second. While I go me. Apologies about that. We'll go back to the action in just a second. Just need to get this set up again because, yeah. F1 game being F1 game, new patch still breaks a few things here and there.
Yeah, that's a start, let's say.
Oh, have you lost connection as well, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I think everyone's sort of
Okay,
been
this
booted.
wasn't me then that had the issue.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a bit of a concern. See if we can get this all figured out.
Yeah, I believe we are restarting.
Alrighty. Well, stream's going to still be keep going while we're waiting for everyone to reset back up again. So while we're just doing that, we can talk a little bit about the sort of your experiences and sort of experiences over sort of racing in this track, sort of from your perspective. But obviously, you've raced, as I say, racing this game for quite a while yourself. Sort of any outstanding memories
Um,
from past racing here?
yes, there's one that particularly comes to mind in season 1 of RFL actually. Um, there was, I believe it was a intermediate conditions race, if I'm right. That could be wrong, but anyway, the point is that the race eventually went to half points, and I finished in P10, so I got half a point from that race. And then in China for this season, I also got half a point as well. So that was quite a nostalgic memory trip to go through. So yeah, that's my best memory of racing at this circuit. Um, but yeah, there's also been a lot of big moments in real life as well. We've obviously had the 1989 and 1990, I believe, the
Yeah,
Senna and Prost
the
crashes.
championship yes, and
Yeah,
obviously the, yep, I
and
believe it's
arguably two of the most iconic pieces of commentary as well. Um,
and it's happened immediately.
yeah, yeah. Um, so
In one
yeah,
of the most
that's
iconic quotes from Murray Walker, amongst many.
yeah, and yeah, that's probably yeah the two moments that I would say are the biggest that's happened at this track. So yeah, will we see anything similar today in the race here? Who knows?
Potentially. I mean, you forget also the fact of Alonso making the move on Michael Schumacher into 130R.
Yeah, that is also true, and there is Kimi Raikkonen on Giancarlo Fisichella into turn 1, I believe, as well.
I believe that was when he went from 17th to 1st.
Yeah.
Almost effectively a last to first challenge.
Mm.
Real life edition.
Yeah.
So, while we're going over this, obviously, looking at while we also wait for the lobby to get re-going again, looking quickly at the standings, Vapid on top, obviously 150 points. It's not had the greatest of sort of races recently. It's been a little bit sort of off form in terms of what I've seen from him. Obviously, Spain I don't think really helped him in terms of, I believe there was some damage to his rear wing, which did not really help his case in all of that. But he still holds a decent points gap of, I believe, just about 26.5 points to Scott. Obviously, Scott himself has not been the most consistent this season as well. But you reckon that Scott has, if he can have a decent race this week, can actually get himself closer to Vapid if he actually has a decent race?
Um, there is definitely potential for that to be the case. There's definitely still enough races left in the season for things to change in the championship, but it does, in my opinion, need to start turning around fairly quickly, I'd say. Probably a race win or two in the next 2 or 3 races is key if he does want to close that gap in the championship.
Indeed, correct. Yes. Obviously, looking as well down the other bits of the leaderboard. Obviously, the other one I'm looking at in sixth and seventh is the two Alpine drivers, which I'm also looking at the constructors' championships, and obviously Alpine have two scoring drivers that have ability to score good consistent points week in, week out. But obviously we know that it was a bit unfortunate for Tom Gordon last week, obviously with a bit of the wall at Monaco that kind of stuck out and spun him round. And then when he tried to spin back around, he had contact on the rear wing, which gave rear wing damage. But
Yeah.
if the two Aston Alpine drivers can actually be consistent, then I believe those two will have the potential of going for the constructors, because obviously we know what Vapid is carrying the Williams team, because, well, so I believe his teammate has only really scored a couple of points this season at most.
Yeah, that is true. If the two Alpine drivers, Tom Gordon and Kirby, can work together, they can mount a challenge, but they can't afford to mess up races, or they're not gonna catch up quick enough, in my opinion, I'd say. But as we know, anything can and probably will happen, to quote Murray Walker there. But yeah, there's definitely still a chance of a change round, I think.
Indeed, so obviously, while we look as well at some interesting points in the standings as well, we have. It's really, I think, the closest to I can really see in the standings. Obviously, we know that a few drivers have actually left, and as I say, a lot of people have come and gone within the league. But obviously, well, going back to the constructors for just a second, obviously we said we're just talking about Alpine, but Haas are not too far behind either, and obviously we know Scott can actually perform at a very decent level as well.
Yeah, that is true. I think it is probably going to be between those three teams, the winner of the constructors. So it's a case of who keeps himself out of trouble and is consistently the quicker teams, really.
You're indeed correct on that. Obviously, we know that it was dry for this part of it, but going back a little bit to the chat, your teammate, I believe, Checo, um, so talking about the best race in Japan was from another league where he went from P15 to P6. I mean, that brings up another point that overtaking is actually surprisingly difficult if you're not quite brave enough. But I do believe a track like this does award bravery a lot more than what other tracks do.
Yeah, indeed, you can um, make some dives if you are indeed brave enough. Yeah, but there's also a lot of twisty sections which require high downforce as well. So it's a case of how low in the downforce drivers are prepared to go in terms of setup, and then obviously how late they're prepared to go on the brakes as well.
I believe just where JDM just went through a minute ago is a place where you can also overtake as well. I
Yeah.
believe it's the Kobayashi, the place where Kobayashi made a lot of his dive bomb moves out in one of his home races. I believe it was at 2012,
Yeah,
2011,
I do
if
I
I'm
do
correct.
remember that one. Yeah, it was like so many overtakes there.
Indeed, I believe our first car that will be coming around to set the initial lap is going to be JDM in the Ferrari. We haven't obviously seen JDM for a few weeks. He's been away obviously with real life commitments for a little bit. But as I say, take us through a lap of the Suzuka circuit.
Yeah, so going up through the gears now, heading down the hill towards the first corner of that with the DRS open, and then it will close now as you go into the fast turn one, and then you need to try and hit the apex as best you can as you head now into the twisty S section here. And if you make a mistake on one part, it is just going to mess up the rest of it. So it's important to get a good drive through all of the corners, as it's a little bit wide there through the Dunlop corner, and that is a disqualification in the session there. So I don't know what's happened
That's
there,
unfortunate.
but we're gonna continue on with this lap as we head under the bridge now, and now into the hairpin corner. You need to try and brake in a straight line as well, and heading down into first gear is the Ferrari of JDM FA, and now through the flat out right-hander, and now heading towards the long left-hander off the spoon corner with 2 apexes, and it's a little bit wide there, and is that no, it's not quite an
No,
invalidation.
it was not. Yeah,
Just
he's kept
about
all of it
keeps the
just.
lap going, but has he lost maybe a little bit of time through there as he now head down the back straight and towards the very fast 130R corner. He goes through that absolutely flat out, and now into the final chicane, breaking down into what will be second gear, and now it is one final push line, very wide indeed, but again it's not an invalidation, and now flat out to the line, open DRS, and it's a 1:32.1 for the Ferrari driver.
I believe that time will be beaten, as I see Jinx has gone off at the final corner in the McLaren, so he's not had the best of times in the current, I believe that is the old McLaren livery they're back to. They're not going the, I believe it's OKX livery now that they have on that car. As Vapid puts himself into pole position, 30.1 for the Williams driver. Obviously, track last week didn't really suit Vapid in terms of, obviously it was Monaco very much being a wheel track rather than being a pad track, and obviously we know Vapid being a pad user. It is very much, I think he'll be a lot more at home this week than what he was last week.
Yeah, that is very true. He has been fairly vocal about Monaco not being his best track, and he did manage to get a P4 in the end in Monaco, so it was a fairly good damage limitation if you like for Vapid, but he is currently provisional pole, as we can see on the top left.
Indeed correct. His teammate comes across the line, goes P4 at the moment, 33.8. They say with So Fresh, he's not had the best of luck this season to a point, with some certain things that have happened, but has meant that it has left Vapid with a lot of the heavy lifting in the team to be done.
Yeah, that is true, but we have seen some promising signs from the second Williams driver of So Fresh, so hopefully for him he can maybe try to help his teammate a little bit more, and for him try and get a decent result here today.
Indeed, obviously only 12 drivers once again. We will only have 11 in this session, as the second of the Alfa Romeo drivers has been disqualified. I believe I know what's happened there. He's probably been in the pit lane exit and been disqualified for apparently blocking it, which has happened before, as we're on board with Scott W at the moment. He's currently coming up to finish his lap. He is purple in the middle sector, although sometimes you can never really trust these purple sectors.
Yeah, that's very true, as we see Scott taking the very inside line, heading towards the line, and that does put him ahead of Vapid.
30.018, less than a tenth quicker than the Williams driver. Obviously we know Scott is a quick driver, but has suffered from bouts of inconsistency this season, so looking to be a little bit more consistent with some of his driving, but I believe some mistakes have plagued them as well.
Yeah, that is true. He'll be hoping that he gets none of those mistakes even in today's race weekend, so he'll be hoping for a clean weekend, and he'll hope that he can put in some fast qualifying times, and he'll hope to possibly lead from the front if all goes to plan for the Haas driver of Scott.
Indeed. As we now have a Viper, obviously Viper Shoe, someone who I have seen race before. He does have some pace under his belt. Indeed, I think Normal Jinx has indeed come back out on the same set of mediums that he did his first run on and spun at the final corner. But that's one thing I have picked up on so far, having driven on this game with the curbs, is if you go too far over them and try and hook your car over them, the back end of the car will just get sucked off the curb, and you will just lose to either spin round, or worse, you might end up losing time in some way or another due to the nature of the some of the curbs, just the walls being quite close in some of the corners as well.
Yeah, it can sometimes be not random, but like a very surprise moment because you can do the same thing multiple laps and then just one lap you go through and the curb just decides that it doesn't want to accept what's happened, if that makes sense. And sometimes it could be down to ride heights or suspension, who knows, but yeah, it can sometimes be very unpredictable, as you say.
I think also that part of it is part of the game as well this year, because sometimes, I don't know how often you've obviously found it, is as a no traction user yourself, is how often you end up losing traction completely randomly in the middle of probably an exit of a corner or somewhere in a straight, just purely for some reason the car is refusing to grip.
Yeah, and you always have to be aware of losing the back end. You always have to be just focused to the max really, and try and not lose the car really.
That's going to be the crucial thing for the drivers, to make sure they keep it all together and make sure those that say on the less of the traction side do not have the issues. As there's shot metal into the 29s. Obviously we know he has been very quick for the last 2 3 weeks. He got a podium in Barcelona at Catalonia in Barcelona, and obviously won last week in Monaco. Obviously a very good drive from himself there, I believe it was. So that alternate strategy, but you reckon it's going to be interesting to see, can he keep up his form for the rest of the season, because he's going to be a championship contender, or at least a top 5 contender at the very least, if he keeps up this form.
Yeah, it can be quite quick to jump yourself up the standings from just a few good results. So let's indeed see what he can do for the rest of the season. And obviously he's sitting on provisional pole at this moment in time as well, with just about 8 minutes of this qualifying session to go.
Yes, indeed so. As I believe we're on board with Vapid at the moment, who's currently on his lap, looking to respond to Shot Medal. Obviously, I believe, with track evolution, there will be time to be found, because on a full dry track, I assume you can find about maybe half a second on a fresh set of tyres, maybe even more than that.
Yeah, we'll see what the Williams driver of Vapid is able to do this time around, and he is approaching the third sector as we can see. And what sort of time is he improving on his time?
He's marginally down.
Oh, okay, so we might see him dive into the pits here, but let's have a look and see what he is going to do.
If he's 0.022 down on his time. It's going to be... Oh, he marginally improves. It's a 30.088. He's still slower than, at the moment, Scott, who currently stalls second place.
That is true. It is pretty close in the top three, with like just over a tenth really separating the top three, as we have Checo just about to start his lap, and the last driver who is still in the session who has not set a time yet, as he starts his lap now, and it is down into turn one for the Aston Martin driver. And how is he going to fare with the turn corner? He doesn't use the full track on entrance, but he does get a decent exit and use full track on the exit there, and goes onto the curves there, so trying to push as much as he can on this lap here, as he has waited quite a bit to start his first flying lap here. And let's see if he can get in a good lap time in this session, as he goes into the two Degners, I believe they are. And now...
Oh, he's just invalidated.
Oh, that is not great.
He was on the entrance in the middle of the Degners, I believe. It was the curb on the outside on the left that he actually invalidated on. But that's one other thing I do want to mention about, obviously, the cars now. You probably would have noticed this as we went round, is the fact of the differences in some of the cars now with the latest 1.15 patches, they've been brought up to date in terms of the liveries.
Yes, the Aston Martin, the Halo is definitely different from when I was driving it in this RFL season. So yeah, I think it's improved the look of it a bit. So yeah, yeah.
I want to ask, obviously you've driven probably a few cars and you've probably seen, obviously from real life, what would you say so far is the favourite livery so far from the game and from real life this season?
Favorite livery? Well, if I was biased, I would probably say Aston Martin, as it has been the car I've driven in most. But if I was to take off my biased hat, so to speak, what would I say? I'd say it's probably between the Alfa Romeo and maybe the Red Bull.
Alfa Romeo, yeah, I can probably see that one. The thing is, the one with the Red Bulls, obviously you don't really see. I think it's a slightly deeper blue on that car this year, if I'm correct.
They've definitely improved the look of it in the latest patch. So yeah, that's obviously we don't have anyone driving the Red Bull today.
Yeah,
in this
so
session,
we can't show it off today.
Yeah.
Obviously, another one of the big changes is obviously the car we're currently on board with, the McLaren. Obviously, the OKX. Obviously, I believe the purple's not in there at the moment, but we are on board with Jinx, who is in the red McLaren. I still get cars mixed up, even though I really shouldn't at this point. I've done commentary long enough to know this now, but it does still happen. But obviously, normal Jinx did his first lap on the mediums, and I believe he's on his probably one of his final laps on the softs. He's almost a second up. He's 9.9, almost 9 and 9.3 tenths up on his best lap so far, and it looks like he could put himself very much as into the top half of the field. Obviously, again, normal Jinx, another driver that has a lot of pace, but has not been able to fully make use of it as he puts himself into P4, 130.1. A very congested field, as I say, looking at the gaps in the field. Obviously, from Shut Middle to Scott, who's currently on a lap. I'm just going to go on board with Scott. He's currently in the first sector. I believe he's invalidated, so something's happened there between himself and the Williams, because there's a Williams going very slow behind him.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that maybe SoFresh has got in the way there, as Scott has got a 5-place penalty for illegal blocking.
Oh, I have not seen that before on this game.
That is a penalty I can see. I don't know what that was about. Scott's going to be angry with that one, because he's currently on the front row, and that's going to drop him back at the moment, down to back about P7.
That's very unfortunate, because the Williams of SoFresh, he's on an out lap as well. So he's just been sitting behind, and Scott's been penalised for it. So
yeah, sometimes that does happen. Yeah. I'm not sure really what to say on that one.
Yeah, obviously very frustrating for the Haas of Scott. So he's gonna have to make it up in the sprint race, hopefully for him.
Yeah, obviously it's not the worst for it happening in the sprint race. It could have happened in the actual. Obviously, no, it doesn't happen anywhere else. But it could have been worse if it had just been the one race and he has to work his way through from that. But obviously, it's going to mean that we will see a lot more punchy action from the Haas driver.
Yeah, and he'll be hoping that's not going to be part of more bad luck in his season as well. So it's going to remain to see if he's going to be able to recover from it.
Obviously, I believe we are more than halfway through the season now. We are on round number 15 with... Not entirely sure, I'll have to have a look at the end of it and see what round 16 actually is, but obviously a very long calendar, obviously, in RFL this season. I believe there will be some remediations and changes to next season, but those are still in the works at this moment in time. But anything you look forward to seeing within the league next season?
I think it's obviously going to be a fresh season, and then potentially we'll get more of a championship battle. Maybe I'd like to see. So yeah, I think that can be possible, and yeah, we've got many drivers who've got potential to be contenders.
I believe there will be some changes depending on what has been said. I believe we may well have different commentary teams for next year, as if everything goes to plan, I may well be racing next year. Depends on what does actually happen, because so I've got some stuff in the IRL that I'm potentially going on with in the background. But we may well have a fresh team as Scott has popped himself into pole position.
That's very true, and he'll be needing that because the best he's gonna be starting in this sprint race is gonna be sixth position. So he's gonna need to get that provisional pole.
As I believe Normal Jinx has pit, so he is obviously not happy with his final lap, or he made a mistake. I believe the next car to cross line is going to be Checo getting his only lap in the actual session, and right at the end, so getting the best of the tyre grip that you're going to have. So where does the Aston Martin driver put himself as he comes around the final corner, coming past the Ferris wheel and around the final corner, taking it to the line? It's going to be a 31.9, so it puts himself in P11 still. Shot Medal pops himself into P2. He will inherit pole position. He's not far off Scott though, only less than a tenth off of Scott. I believe the next car across the line is going to... Nope, Angela Small has not managed to make it across the line, so it's going to be Tom Gorian, I believe, who's come to the line, who's half a second up on his best time. Where can the Alpine driver put himself? It is going to be pole position for the moment,
Oh, that's a good lap there.
129.5. That's a very good lap there from
Yeah.
the actual... From Tom Gorian there in the Alpine. Where can his teammate put himself as well? His teammate's bailed off into the pit lane, and that is going to be it. It is Kirby is done. He must have not been able to find time on his lap, so that's, I think, everyone done from this session. Indeed it is, as I believe Scott is out of fuel. Also must have just had enough fuel to actually get across the line, and that would do for qualifying.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting session there. Obviously with Tom Gordon putting his Alpine car on pole position, and then the dramatic 5th place grid penalty for Scott, which he will be very frustrated with indeed. So that's going to put him down into P7 on the grid.
Yeah, not the best of results there for the Haas driver. Don't know why my brain was refusing to actually think of words there. But it is Tom Gorian on pole position. It's going to be shot middle low start P2 with Vapid P3. Normal Jinx will be promoted up to P4 with Angela Small promoted back up to P6. It will be Viper shooting and then it will be Scott starting in P7 with Viper shooting P8. Kirby will start from P9 with GDM in 9th. Checo in 10th with So Fresh in 11th. Did manage to get a lap in the end, lap just a little bit off the pace of Checo there, the Mexican driver, and then obviously we know what happened to the Alfa Romeo driver in P12, so it was unfortunate for him that happening there.
Indeed so, and hopefully we'll be getting an enthralling sprint race here at Japan.
Hopefully yes. Obviously we know that the sprint races can be a little bit chaotic, and sometimes the drivers don't always use the most amount of patience, knowing that the race is only 5 laps long, but it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Very much so, and it's are we starting very shortly, or are we having a little break? Do you know, or
I believe we have a break to begin with. I believe, as I say, we go into this one straight from no formation lap. Obviously, there only being 5 laps, and I believe you can't put a formation lap in a 5-lap race, which would be a bit pointless. But obviously, being a league racer in this game, would just go a little bit off topic just now. Obviously, being a league racer in this game, is there any potentials? Obviously, we talked about ways to try and fix Monaco. Obviously, in terms of like the game, is like anything that potentially we can actually, do you think would actually improve massively? Like, say, anything from personal experience?
well, if we have, well, I think definitely improving the servers that we have. I think that would definitely go in the right way. Obviously, that's going to be a very difficult task as well. And I think just because they've sort of the code's sort of been transferred over game to game, so we often see um, issues in the game carrying over as well. So that's obviously not great, and so but obviously it does take a long time to to change the code and everything. So yeah, hopefully we do um get a few less issues with the game. But overall there's obviously a lot of positives with it as well. So um yeah, I'd probably say those are the two big things I would say. But yeah, do you have any opinions yourself on that?
I agree on the servers. This is one thing that was obviously rumors at some point about the game was dedicated servers. And obviously with more money behind the game, now, obviously with EA taking a little bit of a control on the actual company itself. Obviously we know it's kind of it's mixed opinions as to whether or not EA improves the game or not. You can decide that for yourself. But I think dedicated servers would help improve, especially if you race with, say, someone like Checo, who I believe races from Mexico, to someone like Vapid, who races in Scotland. It's just the difference of how far your net has to travel, which means you might have one of the world's best nets, but if you live in a country as far away from Mexico to Scotland, it's going to be it's going to be a big gap, and the internet's going to be not going to be as good as you think it is.
That is very true indeed. Yeah. Obviously we've got drivers, I just say, in Europe and in the Americas as well, and obviously from other distant countries as well. So yeah, it's
Yes,
a very worldwide environment we've got. So that can sometimes lead to lag and things like that. But on the whole, it's generally okay. But yeah, obviously the
yeah.
improvements are probably wanted, I'd say.
Hmm. See, with all that said and done and a little bit of topic stuff, we'll probably have a little bit of topics discussions and that during the actual sort of little bits of quiet times in between every so often, sort of like in between the races starting for like each week in the streams for now till the rest of the season. We move on to the action, which is about to unfold, which you're going to have to be quite quick in actually doing this because obviously no formation lap and it doesn't always give you the options of pulling up the menu for the spectator straight away. So lights are coming on. It's going to be 5 red lights, and they are out. Looks like a decent start for the Alpine driver. It's not been a good start.
Oh no.
I don't think that's not been a good start for Shot Metal, though. It's going to be Vapid up to P2. Angelissimo trying to go around the outside. He's not managed to make it work. It looks like Scott is side by side with Viper. Viper's going to try and go around the outside of the first of the Senna S's as he can carry on going around side by side. A little bit of contact still, and I believe Scott has just spun himself off of the side pod.
Well, that is not.
I think JDM's also been off the track as well, so I don't know what's happened to JDM. As we go back to the front, Angelissimo and the other Ferrari. Well, it's calamities for one of the Ferraris. The other Ferrari is challenging the Alfa Romeo. Shot Metal a little bit wide coming out of the second Degner. Angelissimo thinks better of it as he go into the next sequence of corners into Kobayashi corner. As it looks like Vapid is not. He's still got still got Vapid keeping company. It's a little bit behind. However, Angelissimo is determined to make a move here on Shot Metal
as well. Side by side between
it is Checo versus Fresh. And it looks like that is Kirby as well, who I don't think had the best of starts. As So Fresh runs a little bit wide, it's going to be a chance here. Spins as it looks like he's going to be joining for the mid race. As it looks like there's a little bit of movement there from So Fresh. Is Kirby going to try and make a move coming into 130R? Is he going to be close enough? No, he's not. As he has to go into the final corner. Can he be close enough to make the move into here? No, he's not going to be close enough yet. Whoa, I don't know what that was about. I believe there's a little bit of lag there from Kirby. Oh, that could be a thing that happened there, but it's a good switch back move there from Kirby. As it looks like to try and make the move into turn 1, as it's going to be a move down the inside of turn 1 as they head into the first corner. As it's an easy move there for Kirby as he heads into the first corner, and then that is it. As we also have the Alfa Romeo in the pits, which means I think he has also been involved in the chaos as well.
Yeah.
As it looks like we have lost Viper at some point as well, so I don't know what's happened to Viper. in this race. Viper Shoe obviously
so
having issues with connection, or something else has happened there, so that might cost him a few positions. But meanwhile, while that is going on, it looks like, I believe, Kirby's lost the back end. Coming out of one of the corners, yes he has, in the Senna S's. It looks like there's been an issue for the second Alpine driver.
That is very true indeed. I didn't quite catch what did happen to the Alpine of Kirby, but at the start, I think it was the McLaren of normal Jinx. He did not get a good start at all, and he ended up in the wall and out of the race. And I think that may have Constantina behind, as well as JDM is off track now.
Yep, and I believe Scott has made the move on So Fresh into there, as he's now up to P7 after that spin.
That is very true indeed. The gap at the front is just under a second, with Shot Medal in third place also just under a second as well, and the gap to fourth place of Angelo is also a similar gap as well. So it looks like that the battle between Scott and So Fresh was the closest at that moment in time there.
This is the fastest lap. Oh, his So Fresh runs a little bit wide as we come back to him, as he tries to make a move, and that's going to cost him a lot of time, as DRS is indeed now enabled. As there goes normal Jinx from the session, so we obviously will be able to get him back for the main session, but it's going to be unfortunate there, or indeed for that, as it looks like the closest battle is now once again Angelo, who's trying to get himself as close as he can get to the back of Shot Medal in the Alfa Romeo, obviously looking to keep his podium streak going. He has indeed still managed to obviously do that from the sprint races. Obviously it means that you get a few more points, obviously, as it works in this league. 3 points is what you get from the 3 points for winning the sprint, and then I believe it is 2 points for second and 1 point for third, so it's all to play for, really.
Yes, that is very true, and I think we're just seeing the top drivers try and suss each other out, really, and where their strengths and weaknesses indeed lie in this circuit.
So we can see Shot Medal looks like he is still carrying this team at the moment. His teammate down in 11th, really struggling at the moment. Looks like, as I say, that's the thing with this track, is sometimes the track is not the most forgiving, and if you do have any issues at all, or someone has an issue in front of you, then there's no real chance for you to avoid any of what's happening.
I believe at the start they had the McLaren in the wall in front of them, and they just had nowhere really to go. So that's a bit unfortunate for indeed the Alfa Romeo driver, but we have the battle for what is third place closing up a little bit here between Angelo and Shot Medal, but Angelo not quite being able to get within half a second of the Alfa Romeo driver ahead.
I think Shot Medal made a mistake somewhere, because he's dropped out of a second.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't see a big mistake, but maybe it's just not being able to get on the power.
Or is Vapid trying to get himself into the DRS in front, but it looks like Vapid is also struggling to keep himself in DRS now, and Angelo's going to have a clear run here at Shot Medal. It is curious though, knowing what the drivers actually run in terms of their wing setups, because obviously you want some straight line speed for a track like this, but then you also want a little bit of wing for the corners. As it looks like we have a yellow flag, that is once again the Alfa Romeo driver having issues in the Degner, so he is once again much further back than what he's really going to be hoping for. As it looks like, I say, the one thing to note though, as I say, I think he's still struggling with worn tyres there. Shot Medal has does not have much ERS. I know ERS in a race 5-lapper is not as important, but he's got much less deployment than what Angelissimo does behind him.
P9 emerging here. It could be side by side into 130R between Kirby and JD, and it's still side by side. And is there going to be an overtake? Oh, that was...
What was that about? I don't know. I think Kirby's having a little bit of lag issues there. I can't really tell.
Because that would have been a good overtake there, but he's going to get the DRS here. And
JDM doesn't really defend it. I think JDM is maybe just let him go back through there, because I think there must be some contact.
Who knows, but it is
it's wide
the move just about completed there with a little bit of mistake, but he's still able to stay ahead. So up to P9 there for TM Kirby in the Alpine car.
Yep, obviously I believe once again, I believe they both have for once I say, Williams actually have 2 cars running in the actual top 10.
Yeah, that's
We have
very
Viper as
true.
well. Angelo was a little bit closer going into that. Well, back on board obviously with the third driver Andrismo. He was closer to the back of shot middle for a little bit there, but has fell back at range again. So obviously we are coming onto the final lap. So I believe on the final lap we are on the final lap. Vapid has been close, but Tom just had an answer for him.
That is very true, and it does look like Tom is going to win this sprint race here as we head into the final chicane. Oh,
Yep,
battle
we've
for
seen
P5.
what's happened.
Oh, he's not quite gone for it. Has Scott and Haas, but he does go for the move into the chicane, side by side between the Haas and the Alfa Romeo Checo.
I understand going side by side there, but it's a little. I don't think Scott left quite enough space there for the actual Aston Martin driver there.
Yeah, the gap was closing, to be fair, but it is Scott who has got ahead of the Aston Martin and Checo there.
And it's going to be JDM to cross the line, and it will be the Alfa Romeo driver who will finish miles behind. Not really through probably much fault of his own, but unfortunate there. But obviously we know that Tom has won the race. Hopefully this time round, because obviously he made it work in Monaco, but we know that what happened in the main race at Monaco, it's going to be crucial for him not to have any sort of good mentality going into this one and not have it happen again.
Yeah, he's gonna want to take a redemption for that race. So let's indeed see if he can indeed hold on to the win from the pole position that he has got himself from winning the sprint race.
What is indeed going to be interesting, obviously, with the main race now is, obviously, since we have the option of the extra set of tyres with the harder tyre strategy and the middle tyre strategy now, not all just being soft tyres, how many drivers do we reckon have actually gone for the extra set of mediums and hards, do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of the front runners would have chosen at least one more set of medium tires, because if, say, there's a safety car, that extra set of mediums will always be very useful indeed, to put onto a fresh set of them, which obviously you couldn't get that choice before the new updates. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out, really.
Yep. Going to be very interesting to see how that does indeed play out. We have Tom McGorry in the chat saying, let's go, part 1 done. Yep, you just have to do the main part now, which is the main race. So, it is Tom Gorian who picks up the 3 points for the sprint race in the Alpine from pole position. It was Vapid who got shut middle off the start, and then that was really it from that, with Vapid taking 2 points for second and shut middle taking the final point for third. It was fourth for Angelissimo, followed by Scott in P5, so he will start P5 for the main feature race. What could have been without that 5-second penalty? Sixth for Checo, good job from him, from P10 on the grid, from Viper Shoe obviously losing connection early, lap 3, lap 4 has kind of demoted him down to P7, so you'll be looking for improvements in the main race. 8th place is so fresh in the second Williams, so 8th place with Kirby in 9th. In the second Alpine JDM, and a 10th with the Alfa Romeo driver in 11th. Rounding off the finishers, with obviously Normal Drinks being very unfortunate to have that issue before he even got towards turn 1.
That is very true indeed, and hopefully we will be seeing some very entertaining action here as we head towards the main part of the race weekend.
Very much so. So the drivers are now back in the lobby again. We have SFR Finns, who has now joined the lobby, so we will now have 13 drivers. The New Zealander has joined the lobby for the main race, so he will be starting from the back of the grid. But it looks like we have a dry session from the looks of it, because the weather icon looks like it's dry. Oh, could be changing it a little bit. Oh, it's back to that again already. Interesting to note. But as we now head into the main session itself, obviously we know that it's a very different type of game for the drivers here as we go. Obviously 27 laps is a very different ball game to 5 laps, obviously knowing that you have to be a little more strategic about your moves and so on and so forth. How do you see some of the drivers approaching this?
Yeah, I think it sort of depends what strategy they choose. Really, there's the I think we'll see a lot of drivers now that we've got the two sets of mediums. I think we'll see more drivers potentially starting on the mediums this time. So it will be interesting to see if that is the case, or if it's going to be similar to what we've seen in the past.
I don't think we will be getting normal Jinx back because I just went and looked in the menus to see go and resend him an invite back to the lobby again, and he's disappeared onto Pro Clubs on FIFA 23, so I don't think he
Yeah,
wants to rejoin again after
I
that.
did see that, but yeah, obviously doesn't want that 12th place on the grid, so that will be
No, I'll
given
be followed up by
given to
Finns.
Finns. Yeah.
Obviously, we touched on it a little bit earlier on, obviously dedicated servers, but what do you think the feasibility and actual possibility that will ever be implemented into future games, just while we're waiting for obviously for the lobby to be uh, on the go again?
Yeah, if we're being a bit more realistic, I don't think we'll be seeing that for quite a few years. Obviously, we'd all like it to happen, but it's just a bit too unlikely, I think, at this moment in time.
Indeed, it's just a case in point of depends on how much money really gets put into. Obviously, we know that EA put a fair bit of money into obviously buying Codemasters, but it's just people have, as I say, we've also mentioned already. People have mixed opinions about EA in terms of what they do. Sometimes they're a little bit murky with some of the stuff they actually do. But would you reckon so far that this has been an improvement for the game, F1 game as a whole, or do you reckon the problems lie elsewhere in terms of the fact that they just need to do a new coding system for the game?
Um, I think there's been a couple of improvements here and there, but generally it's fairly similar game really to what we've seen last year. So yeah, hopefully we get more significant improvements in the future.
Yeah, indeed. Hopefully we see improvements with the lobbies, because as you can quite clearly see on screen, even if you have the best Wi-Fi in the world, the game will still say your Wi-Fi is terrible.
That is very
It's
true
just
indeed.
indeed, as I say, we are just getting the drivers are re-readying back up once again for the main session. We have 27 laps ahead, as we're not entirely sure what the weather's going to be. As if it is, just throwing out there's potential curveball potentially. If the drivers haven't done enough practice, it could be interesting to see, because a track like this is sometimes difficult in the dry. You add a little bit of weather to this, and it makes it even more of a challenge.
That is very much true. It's obviously always going to be more difficult in the rain, um, especially if you're not running traction control. You have to be really quite delicate on the throttle and brake pedals really. So yeah, if it is a wet session, it's going to be a very tricky race for some of the drivers, I think.
We're just obviously just saying hypotheticals here because hypotheticals, yes, I believe that's the correct pronunciation of that. We may well even see weather in this race. It may well be dry. Who knows? We could have a half and half race for all I know. No, I've not really heard anything there. So we're starting at 59. So it looks like we have a little bit more cloud in this session than what we did in the first race. Obviously, we know that we will only have 12 drivers around 13. So we know that Normal Drinks has decided to call it quits after the race. Obviously, being taken out before we even got down towards turn one. It's just a thing that sometimes does happen where you'll do practice for a little bit and then you'll just be taken out of the race before you even get to the first corner.
Yeah,
It's just
I
it's just
mean,
all about keeping mentality in the right place. I mean that's a
yeah,
part of like league racing that right there is the fact of if your head's in a good place, but obviously the game this year has not been the best for some people, and I believe that's kind of affected why sometimes you'll have low numbers in leagues this year, which
I
is a bit of
mean,
a problem.
yeah, it's the instant off the start. That's a thing that has happened to me in the past as well. So I do sympathise a little bit there with the McLaren of normal jinx there. But on to the main race we go now, and we still got 12 drivers, and let's hope that they can produce a brilliant race for us.
Yeah, just hopefully we can see some great driving and some great battles to come. Obviously, as I say, something that we haven't really seen so far, but I believe was picked up probably, maybe not on the stream, but obviously the Alfa Romeo driver struggling a little bit, was how easy the curves, especially in the CNIS, is you can lose the actual car if you touch too much of the inside of one of the curbs. Obviously talked a little bit beforehand, but the curbs having some certain curbs having certain properties where they'll just catch the car and just spin you out. But it's going to be interesting, obviously with more fuel on board, to see how the cars actually get approached on some of these curbs.
Yeah, that's very true, and obviously the cars will be heavier as well, so they'll be a little bit a little bit lower to the ground as well. So that could also play in a little bit of a factor.
And that, as I say, will definitely, you definitely are correct on that front. But let's talking of, obviously we will go on to strategy now, and obviously we know the fact that obviously most races this year are either medium hard or hard medium, and that's been the case usually for most of the tracks in this game since the tyre rule got removed. And it's an interesting point in case here with the tyre rule. Do you reckon the ability to change to use any tyres that you wish to use, do you reckon that's improved league racing this year, or do you reckon the system is more interesting with the starting the tyres that you qualified on?
I think it's taken out some of the some of the unpredictability in terms of the strategy, because often you'll, even in qualifying as well, because in qualifying you'll sometimes see, if for example there's three part sessions, obviously Q1, 2 and 3, and if those sessions are all enabled, we saw people try in Q2 to try and run the mediums, and sometimes drivers would miss out. So that did see, on paper, some of the quicker drivers a little bit further back in the grid. Um, but yeah, obviously starting on the softs, if there's other drivers on obviously a harder tire, the front runners have to come in earlier, and they potentially get stuck behind traffic as well. So that was spicing up the races a little bit, and we've seen less of that now.
You're indeed correct on that front. Obviously, it's very much a case in point where it was a big risk if you wanted to, because obviously certain tracks did not really suit that in terms of that. But we will obviously get a little bit more discussion on that at some point later on in the race. As here we go for the main session itself. As I say, majority of people are on the mediums. Tom Gorian and Vapid have opted for the mediums. Shot Middle, once again, much like Monaco, has opted for the hards, which is going to be interesting to see how it goes for him, obviously, in the initial laps. Angelissimo down, Angelissimo Scott, Checo, Viper, and So Fresh, Kirby, and JDM all on the mediums. And then I believe it, and Finns in 11th and 12th are on the hard compound tyres, which is definitely going to be interesting to see how the hard tyre runners approach this race, because the hard tyres are going to take a few laps to get up to temperature, although it is track dependent. But if you're on the mediums, you're going to have the grip straight away. It's going to be interesting to see how Shot Metal especially gets off the line in comparison to the people around him.
Yeah, that is very true. We obviously saw the starting on the hard tyre for him last time out did work out for him, and he did obviously win the race. So it is going to be interesting to see if he can repeat that feat, and is it going to
yeah,
be?
I don't think his tyres were warm enough.
Is it going to be a good decision this time around?
Yes, I believe he didn't have tyres warm enough, because I've just seen him spin off in the formation lap. That's not gone entirely to plan for the Alfa Romeo driver, so he's going to take a little bit long to get back to the grid.
At least he's still on the track, so.
Yeah, sorry, Shot Middle. That was also caught on stream, so apologies about that when you watch this back. But as I say, we are now heading on to the end of the formation lap. Obviously, we know that. Well, actually, we won't have to sit because he's immediately got himself back onto the back of the queue. But as I say, the track, Tom Gorian slowing the drivers down as we head back towards the grid now. Tom Gorian, can he get over what happened at Monaco last week, and can he take the race victory here in Suzuka? We're going to find out in a minute, or in a moment, few moments time. Or can Vapid, in the Williams alongside him on the grid, take the position from him on the start? Well, you won't have to wait long to find out, because we will have racing action in just over the next 20 seconds or so. As it looks like Angelo, that's a weird line there from Angelo, but he has actually managed to make it work, as Shot Middle now is going to be forming himself up to it as JDM's only two drivers not getting the right position for the grid box there.
Interesting
Here
indeed.
we go. The lights are about to come on here at Suzuka. 5 red lights are on, and away we go. Good start from Tom Gorian. However, Vapid is going to be try and get alongside him. But looks like it's not been a good start for Shot Middle. He's dropped in at P6 as per thought on the first lap, as Angelo's up to P3 in the Ferrari. It looks like Checo and Shot Middle going side by side. Looks like Scotty tried to go for a move there, as it's going to be almost side by side still. It's like Shot Middle has managed to keep hold of P6. He has dropped a few positions as Fins has jumped the Alfa Romeo for what is P10 at this moment and time, as it looks like Viper is also having a go with Kirby not too far behind him. It looks like So Fresh and Fins are going to go try and go side by side. So Fresh is in the other Haas car, so that's going to be some good points there if he can keep himself on the field, as it looks like So Fresh is having a little bit of an issue. As Alfa Romeo is going to try and go side by side, has to back out as JDM has also fell back a little bit behind, but we're going to go to Viper Shield a little bit further up. He's trying to make a move on Shot Middle. Obviously not quite got those tyres up to temperature yet, a little bit wide from the Alfa Romeo driver, so Viper's going to use a little bit. The ERS to go side by side is coming towards Spoon Curve. He will go side by side. He's now head into next sequence of corners. The Spoon Curves coming up to it, as it looks like it's a little bit wide further up, as it looks like Checo's already fell a little bit out of range. Shot Middle looks like he's struggling a little bit initially, but he still managed to keep up, as it looks like Viper's going to try and go side by side as head up towards 130R. Can he get the move done round the outside? No, he cannot. He's not quite close enough to the back of Shot Middle.
Into the chicane, it's Angelo going up the inside of Vapid, is it? But no, Vapid defends, but it's a switchback move from the Ferrari of Angelo, and it's now
still got the run round the outside
as we head down the pit straight, and it has been a very clean first lap from all the drivers here, and it is side by side into turn 1. Who is going to be the driver who's going to be
he's still round there? Oh no, Vapid has managed to keep hold of it.
Yes, indeed.
That's
very good.
Notice that Scott was just watching brief behind all this and sitting watching with popcorn ready for when it all went down there.
Very true indeed, and it's going to be interesting to see if this battle develops as we head into the rest of the race here.
Indeed, it looks like though Vapid is struggling once again for pace, as he's fell out of a second already. Tom Gorian making his impression straight away, but he has no intentions on hanging around.
Very much true indeed, and we've got most of the drivers fairly close still to each other, and is that a battle for
Viper
P6?
Shoe going up the inside, or he's going to have the outside line for the next corner. Shot Middle does leave him the space. Viper Shoe runs wide as we head into the next corner. Shot Metal's going to have to try and have a go at it, but however, he's using a little bit of deployment. However, he's now Kirby is now on the back of him as well. With Vince, JDM is out of the Grand Prix just after one. Oh, yep, it looks like we have a yep. Is that a full safety car? No, I believe that's just a virtual.
Yeah, so that was a very brave move indeed there from Scott on Angelo into 130R.
Yeah, unfortunately, did not quite catch that. Apologies about that, Angelo and Scott. I didn't actually quite catch that in the stream. So it looks like we do indeed only have the virtual. It's not a full safety car, so as I say, drivers have to make sure they stick to the delta and make sure that nothing really goes on.
That is very true indeed.
3 laps gone in this race. Obviously we know that some people are a little bit out of position here. We do know that Checo not quite having the pace. It looks like he's got the pace at the moment for P5, but he's going to have a lot of pressure from Viper and Sharp Metal to contend with when we do go racing again.
Yeah, interesting to note as well, the Alpha Romeo of Sharp Metal is down into P7.
Yeah, I think he went side by side with Viper Shoe as they came into Spoon Curve, and I think that Viper got the move done. Oh, as we have DRS enabled, Shot Metal has been completely caught napping there. Kirby's got alongside him and has managed to make the move stick, although he could have had an illegal overtake there potentially if he did it before the yellow flags were still out. However, Shot Metal is going to go side by side with yet another car. Those tyres still not up to temperature yet. He's wide. That's going to allow Finn's up the inside. He's down to P9, so from P9 on the grid, or P3 on the grid, it's P9 now.
Yeah, that's very true indeed, but can he make a move to try and get back past the Haas car? It doesn't look like it's going to be the case into 130R, but can he make a move into the chicane? And he goes up the inside, and side by side they go through the chicane. And
yep,
it
Finn's
looks
does leave him the space.
Does defend for now.
DRS enabled though, here we go. Down the straight, it's going to be a little bit of ERS used in the DRS, a little bit of squeezing from Finn's there. Also on the hard compound tyres, so it was important for Shot Metal to get back past this. Kirby runs a little bit wide up ahead. So Fresh is in the pits, so I think there must have been an issue for the second Williams driver there. So unfortunate there for him. So looking at the gaps as well, looks like the closest battle at the moment. It looks like that's Tom Gorian.
Into Dunlop, I believe.
Oh, not again. From the second time in the lead, it's happened again.
Side by side for 7th position. And it's Finn's defending from Shot Metal once more.
Indeed so. But that's a real unfortunate thing. Once again, Tom, from pole position.
And we've got a battle for the lead now, maybe.
Yeah, now Vapid
as well.
Scott definitely has the pace advantage here on Vapid. Vapid really struggling for paces, and now we may only see Scott use some ERS to try and keep himself as close as possible to the back of that Williams car and put as much pressure as what he possibly can onto that car in towards the final sequence of corners. I believe it is the Casio Triangle, if I'm correct, those sequence of corners right there. Into the final corner, Scott is going to have the DRS. Is Vapid going to be able to defend it? It's the fastest lap for Scott. Vapid is going to have to defend the inside line. Scott's going to have to go round the outside. They go side by side.
P4 as well as Viper gets past Checo, and battle for P6 as well as Finns gets ahead of Kirby into turn 1 also.
Lots of action going side by side. However, I think that battle was not quite done yet, as I think Checo almost had a secondary go as there goes Tom Gorian from the session. He's left. I wonder if he's had some kind of issue there, but he should be able to get himself back in the session again.
I will see if I can try and get him back in.
As Checo still keeps himself close to the back of Viper, but he's not going to be able to make a move at the moment as we have a yellow again. I believe that's the Alfa Romeo driver who's having issues once again, just through Dunlop, I believe. He's had an issue that's resulted in him losing more time to Tom Gorian. Just in front. Scott now back on the battle for the lead. The Haas driver looking to make moves on the Williams driver.
Battle
Is
for
he going to pull the
P5?
move into
Well,
130R? It's going to be side by side, and that is going to be the move done for Scott. However, I think that might have been what the trap card of what Vapid was trying to pull as he tries to make the move down the inside. Was not able to do so. However, now Vapid is going to have the DRS now, but does have to worry about Angelo. But there's a little bit of a moment there. However,
on Kirby as well into the chicane.
I think he's going to be close enough to potentially go for a move. Is Kirby if he gets close enough, but I don't think he's going to be close enough. However, looking back at it, looks like Vapid was not able to make it stick on the car in front of him. And he looks like he's wanting to get as close again to the back of Scott, but it looks like Scott has got the pace and is now pulling away a little bit from Vapid. Looks like Vapid is struggling a little bit with pace, but Angelo is not looking like he's able to really make the moves himself, as it looks like Finns is trying to make the move in the other Haas on Checo. It looks like it's going to be potentially a move coming up soon in the next few corners for Finns, as Finns is looking very close to the back of the Mexican. It's the New Zealand driver versus the Mexican driver, two different sides of the world, as it looks like it's a spin for Finns coming off of the curb there. Looks like that was a tiny bit curb assisted, so that's unfortunate there for Finns. He's going to drop down quite a bit just off of that.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate there, and we are seeing that Vapid is within half a second of Scott in the lead, but is it going to be close enough to make an overtake?
I wonder if it is. Yes, going to be interesting to see how close he can get, but he drops back in certain places, then he does improve. Hopefully, Tom, you can get yourself back in the lobby again. I don't know if you would have got the invite back off of Cal there, depending on if you actually have got the invite. As it looks like Vapid is going to try and make the move stick. Yes, he has indeed got back in the session again, and he's dropped all the way. He's dropped back behind his teammate now as well. After said and done, looks like Scott is out of ERS round the outside for Vapid. This is a very much a dangerous place to make a move, as the car on the inside can shut the door quite easily. However, it's going to be move done for move done. It's going to be still stuck behind for Vapid rather than move done, and it's what's going to be very interesting to see how that goes, as Finns has, there goes Tom again, as Finns has retired from the session. That's him done. I believe it's a second retirement again for Finns, so we are left with 10 drivers in this race.
That is very much the case, and we've got the closest battles right now is Checo and Shut Medal for P5, and then we have the battle for the lead. Scott and Vapid is also under a second as well.
Yeah, looking like Checo struggling a little bit for pace, obviously knowing the fact that you being your teammate at some points here and there, obviously for the half of the season you were racing with the Aston Martin team. It was very much an interesting note of the fact of the characteristics of what it was like when you two were driving with each other. Obviously knowing, were you two about the same pace, or was there any sort of differences where you'd be in week in, week out?
It was the case where Checo was faster than me, and sometimes I was faster than him. It just sort of depended really on the track and what sort of luck we had in the races.
With a yellow flag once again, I think, is that Tom?
It is, yeah.
Shot medal, look at the grip, look at the difference in speed down towards turn 1. That's going to be a big move down the inside. Checo leaves him the space, and it's going to be P5 for Shot Medal, looking to try and make 2.5 second gap down to Viper, who is now about 3 seconds behind Angelo. Not looking like he has quite the pace, but he looks like he is pulling slightly in on the actual Ferrari driver just in front.
Yeah, we've got the leaders sort of exchanging times here a little bit. Sometimes it is Scott who's faster in a sector, and sometimes it is Vapid behind, so it's going to be interesting to see how quickly, if at all, Vapid can try to get back past the Haas driver.
Looks like Scott just has the measure of him at the moment, but the thing is, we have already noted that Scott is low on ERS. If I go and check, yes, he's on 19%, whereas Vapid is on 50 odd.
Yeah,
52%.
Vapid's been able to sit behind in the DRS, and he has been able to save obviously his ERS more than Scott has, so it's going to be interesting if that does take effect in the next few laps.
Definitely going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, as it looks like once again it's going to be another take of Vapid trying to see how close he can get. But on straight, really, with this track, you kind of have to be within 4/10 to really make the actual move work into turn 1, because any further back and it's kind of a bit of a risk really there.
Yeah, that is very much true. We saw Vapid close up, but he was only really able to get within 3 or 4/10, so that's obviously just that little bit too far back to make a move into turn 1, really.
You're indeed correct on that. As it looks like Checo has still managed to keep himself just within range of Shot Metal. Obviously we know that the mediums will still be the better tyre for this moment in time.
As Tom does set the fastest lap, so he is possibly hoping for a safety car later into the race to maybe bring him back into play. So he'll be very much hoping and praying to the Formula 1 gods that there is going to be a safety car at some point in this race.
Yes, at the moment it looks like the action, this is really all that we can see that's going on at the moment. No one else really within a second. Checo's just dropped out of a second with Shot Metal, and I think Shot Metal now is wanting to potentially get as close as possible to Vipertube, and Vipertube's also trying to get as close as possible to Angelo. It looks like Angelo's struggling a little bit for pace in comparison to the front two. It looks like he's really just about, he's about 2.7 seconds back.
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem to quite have the pace.
He's staying within touching distance, but he's just not quite able to stay on their tails at this moment in the race, as this could be closer for Vapid here into turn 1, but he's just a little too far back there. But he could try to line it up into the next sector or two and maybe see if he can get in within this lap or possibly the next lap.
The thing with the S is you can make moves in these sectors, in this particular sequence of corners rather, if you actually if the driver that you're racing with actually leaves enough space. I mean, it is very possible.
Yeah. Oh, that's a mistake from Checo, and he is round, and that has allowed Kirby past, and that is disappointing there from Checo, and he's lost quite a few seconds as well, unfortunately, there for the Aston Martin
I don't think he needs
driver,
any damage though. I think
no,
he's all good.
He's avoided the walls, which is good, but he is going to be a little bit frustrated with himself for that mistake. But he's only lost one position so far, and hopefully he can get himself back up and running in this race.
Yes, the Mexican driver has shown flashes of brilliance this season, but I don't know if he's actually, I don't think he has been on the podium this year,
Yeah,
but he's come close.
He was P4 in the Bahrain Grand Prix, if I remember correctly, and I think that has been his best result so far. So he is going to be looking to get a podium at some point in this season. Another driver who has yet to score a podium is the driver one position ahead of him, and that is TM Kirby in the Alpine, who is also looking to try and get a podium at some point, and it's a very close gap between Scott and Vapid into the first corner.
Once again though, Vapid not quite getting himself close enough. Now though, we are coming into the stage where it could be very interesting, because we're going to be coming into the stage where a lot of the medium drivers or medium running drivers will be coming into the pits. So for Vapid, does he try and undercut around the track to try and get himself ahead of Scott, or does the overcut work better around here?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what is the best strategy around here. His tyres are starting to look a little bit worn, so we definitely could be seeing them come into the pits sooner rather than later.
I think it's around about lap 13, 14. No, I've seen lap 13 and 15 is when the medium runners will come into the pits. Somewhere around about that time is when I expect to see a lot of these drivers into the pit lane for brand new tyres. The hard tyres, as we say, it might not be as bad later on in the race, but the hard tyre runners, especially Shot Metal, is actually, considering all that happened to him, he's actually not too far behind. Obviously I've just got the interval at the moment, but looking at it, he's only about 9 seconds off the lead.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he does come into play, and that could be a chance for Vapid into the first corner. He goes to the left-hand side, around that side, a little bit of
Oh, it's all
contact
about
maybe
contact.
between the two drivers.
Yeah,
It'll be
very
interesting
light.
to see.
Oh, I think he's kept his nose in.
Oh,
Nope, Vapid's not
he's
wise
just
of it.
about had to back out there, yeah. Yeah, good racing starting to now arise here between the two leaders, and yeah, hopefully we can see a lot more side-by-side action in the rest of this race.
Indeed, as I believe that is Tom Gorian, the first of the runners of the mediums, is into the pits. He will be going onto the hard compound tyres and will be doing, well, potentially, obviously we know that he's spun so he won't get much of an undercut really, but it's all about damage limitation really, and gathering as many places as you possibly can, obviously knowing the fact that once again the curse of pole position for Tom has not really helped him.
Yeah, that is very much true. Yeah, as I touched upon earlier, he will be hoping that a safety car does come out, but there's only 9 other drivers in this race for that to happen for him. So is that going to happen in this race? We don't know, but you always never know really.
Yep. As you said earlier on, the famous quote from Murray Walker, in what was it, in Formula 1, anything can happen, and it normally does. Yes, indeed, as Angelo's also into the pits, Vapid carries on, so it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out now. Obviously the hard runners, Shot Meadow's going to be once again one to look out for, because we know that he's going to be going onto the medium compound tyres. So he's going to be quicker later on in the race, and we've seen what Shot Meadow's pace is actually like. If he's going to, because he'll most likely be in clean air for a little bit, and he can not have to worry about any traffic.
Yeah, that is very much true. He does have Viper Shoe a few seconds ahead, but apart from that, he does not have anyone else up ahead of him, and we should be seeing the McLaren pitting very soon indeed. So that will not be a problem for too many more laps really.
So Scott has come out just about 14 seconds behind Shot Metal, and obviously we know hard tyres are going to take a few laps to heat up. So it is very crucial in these early stages for the hard runners who have just pitted to actually get the grip these tyres up to temperature as quickly as per what you possibly can.
Yeah, interesting to note there's a battle there for P9 between SoFresh and Tom Gorian, who's obviously just pit for those hard compound tyres, so he is not going to want to get held up for too long behind this Williams car. So let's see if he does indeed cleanly make the overtake on the Williams car. And yes,
look at the grip difference.
And Vapid into the pits he comes, talking now to the other Williams driver.
Now, can Scott jump him? A Shot Medal sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 33.5. This is crucial. Can Scott get the position? Where is Vapid? Is he coming out of the pit lane? He is about to come down the pit lane entry. Is it going to be enough for Scott to take the racing lead once again? Or is he going to be just behind? Nope, he's just kept it.
Yeah, so that's not quite worked out there for Vapid, but he will have the warmer tyres, so can he use that to his advantage before the Haas driver of Scott is able to warm his tyres up?
Obviously we know Vapid is going to have to take a lap or so of those tyres heating up, whereas Scott probably may well have already got through that phase of the hard tyres not being as good on the initial warm-up phase. It's going to be interesting now to see how that plays out. Now Scott has 13 seconds, 13.8, as Tom Gorian now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on the hard compound tyres, a 133.5, not much different to what Shot Medal set. Obviously we know Medal set that on a very worn set of hard tyres at this point in the Grand Prix. 13 laps on those tyres as SoFresh comes back into the pits once again in P10, but he's still in a good position there, as it looks like Angelissimo is trying to close up, but a bit of a wild card as well for Viper Shoe a little bit further back is Checo is still going.
Yeah, that is true. It's going to be interesting to see how far he can go. But what I've also noticed is that Angelo has caught up massively to Vapid put in front of him. The gap was around maybe 2-3 seconds, but it's now under a second between Angelo and Vapid Kut now.
Indeed, Angelo in the Ferrari, the Italian in a Ferrari, in an Italian powered car. as Scott now sits fast lap at 33.3. Angelo Small 32.9, so he's definitely on the hunt for that position. Interesting to note though, I was having discussions with some of the drivers beforehand, and I believe Angelo is running a Zandvoort inspired setup around here.
That is very interesting indeed. I mean, they do the Zandvoort track does have similar characteristics. Oh no!
Oh, Angelo spun!
Spin for Angelo.
As has just been seen, that can happen with the curves around here. Looks like, oh, we need to be careful you rejoin there a little bit as well, as Checo has still carried on.
Yes,
he's still going.
Is he hoping that the F1 gods come to help him by possibly throwing out a safety car just as he is about to pit? So is he holding out for a safety car potentially?
I'm looking at Checo's tyres here, and they don't look that... I mean, there are grooves in the tyres, quite deep grooves, but it doesn't look like he's losing too much grip yet.
Yeah, he's maybe he's trying to live up to the real life Checo as well, who is notoriously good at saving tyres. So does he have similar driving styles?
I suspicion... Oh, Angelo's trying to go round the... Whoa, okay. I don't know what... That was an interesting idea from Angelo there, but I'm not sure there's enough space for that. He's trying to go round the outside. There's a little bit of lag going in the lobby from Checo there, but I can't tell if that's... As Shot Meadows finally into the... Shot Meadows pit on lap 15. That's early off the... That's early off the hards. That's very early.
Where does he come out though? Did he come out ahead of Angelo?
No, he'll be out. He does?
Yeah.
Obviously we know Angelo spun, but now looking at it, I think Medal might be in a really good position here.
Yeah, because he's obviously... He's on the medium compound tyres, so if he can put them into good use, then can we maybe see a repeat of last week at Monaco where he's gone from P3 into the lead?
Does still have Angelo for company though, and we've obviously seen that these two were battling near the beginning of the race and in the sprint, so these two, Angelo may well be sick of looking at the back of an Alfa Romeo gearbox at this point.
That could be very much the case, but can Angelo obviously regain the position that he would have lost? And he is within that 1 second, so he is going to get the DRS.
Yeah, 0.8 of a second, 0.9 of a second is around about that range. He's going to have to get a little bit closer, maybe use the little ERS that he has, that Angelo has left, to actually get himself closer. I think Shot Meadows in a better position though. Yeah, Shot Meadows on about 50% ERS deployment, so he can keep himself ahead. He can use a little bit of a deployment to actually get himself out of the range, and Angelo doesn't look like he has an answer for that.
Yeah, he's obviously been able to save his ERS, has the Alfa Romeo, while he's been in clean air on the hard compound tyres, so maybe he's going to be able to use that to pull away from the Ferrari of Angelo and for him try and close up to the two leaders of Vapid and Scott.
Yep. Checo's finally in the pit, so it's interesting to see what he's going to go into.
He's
soft compound tyres.
Very interesting.
Okay, that's a wild card pick. The Alfa Romeo driver, the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in P7. Angelo, that's going to be now, this one is a little bit of a... the thing for Checo is, he needs to use as little of these tyres as possible early on, because he needs to save some of the life in these tyres.
Yeah, that's very true. Yellow flag. Oh,
that would be the Alfa Romeo.
In the wall for Button. Is that going to be a safety car?
Nope, I think he's just kept it going, but I think he might well have wing damage.
Yeah. That could
I think that is just a green...
Been close.
Yep, just a green flag. Once again, Vapid getting himself close. He was out of a second for a little bit behind Scott, but he has managed to get his tyres up to temperature, and he looks like he's now got himself back into range, and now once again he is stuck looking in the back of the gearbox of the Haas.
Yeah, that is very true indeed. He has indeed got the DRS and hugging the wall on the inside there and off the pit wall as well. So we might be seeing that quite a bit in the last stage of the race. And let's see what is going to happen between these two.
Yeah, Vapid not quite. As I say, he gets close, but he's not getting close in the right areas.
Yeah, that is very much true. Yeah, he just needs to maybe suss out where his strengths are and possibly Scott's weaknesses are, and maybe see where the best place is. But yeah, as of yet, he's not been able to overtake the Haas driver, who has been driving pretty well up to now.
Indeed. Indeed, the Alfa Romeo is in the pits once again, so I'm assuming there was wing damage for that car. As
And
Xavier Button has
retirement
retired
as
from the
well.
race. Yeah, so he's out of the race from what could have been good points there.
It could have been, yeah, but that is obviously going to promote the Williams of SoFresh up into P9.
I think that's probably only one of the few times I've seen So Fresh in the points this season. So it'll be double points there for So Fresh.
That is very true indeed. And is Vapid going to be close enough? Not quite. Again there.
He's just not getting close enough.
Yeah.
He's getting close, but he doesn't get close in the right areas. And
Yeah,
now he's just having to use ERS.
Similar to what we were seeing in Monaco, the drivers just can't get close enough.
Scott hangs on once again as Checo's the first one to pick up a penalty, but at the moment, he's not really making use of those soft tyres.
Yeah, that's true. They've not quite come into play as Checo maybe would have hoped, but there are still plenty of time for them to come into their best, and let's see what the Aston Martin driver is able to do.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see, because obviously we know soft tyres will give you a decent amount of grip for maybe the first 3 to 4 laps, and then suddenly you'll find the soft tyres will just drop off a cliff after that.
Yeah, that is very true indeed. That is very much a risk that the soft tyres bring with them. So it is going to be interesting if those tyres do last the entire race, or if the Aston Martin of Checo does have to come into the pits once more.
I don't imagine he'll... The thing is, 10 laps on those tyres, that's a bit of a stretch.
It is a little bit,
Unless
yeah.
he's done some... Unless he knows something we don't.
Maybe he's done a bit of practice and he's been able to take those tyres at a distance when he's been practicing before. But Vapid looks like he's closer to the Haas this time of Scott, and it's side by side. And Vapid,
he's finally got past.
Yeah. So now the question's going to be, what is going to be Scott's response?
I mean, Scott can save a little bit of ERS and then just go for it a little bit later on. Obviously, he knows that he'll know that Vapid pitted a lap earlier than what he did. Earlier? Yes. No, he's done 1 lap longer. Scott has than what he has.
We've
so
also
he has
got
1 lap younger tyres.
Yeah, we also got Tom Gordian on the back of Checo now as well, and with DRS. Does the Alpine driver have Tom Gordian on Checo?
Oh, he's going to use a lot of ERS here. We have a car.
Kirby is
That's
round.
Kirby.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a little bit of contact between Checo and Tom Gordian there. I think also noting the fact of ERS with Checo, he does tend to use his ERS quite a bit, and that's the most amount I think I've seen him with ERS for a while.
To be fair, he does have more ERS than Tom Gordian, so can he use that to his advantage here?
Yep, he is gaining ground though. He's an 11.2. Obviously, we know that Kirby did indeed spin, so it's not looking the best now at the moment for Alpine in terms of the constructors.
Yeah, they've not had the best of races, but there's obviously still plenty of time for that to change around for them.
Obviously, we know that Tom has obviously had that spin earlier on and then had the issues with disconnecting from the actual server, disconnecting from the game itself. He's trying to get close, and I don't know if he actually though. I think Scott is not going to have to wait as long. I think Scott hasn't got close enough again going into turn 1.
He wasn't close. Maybe he's trying to save up his ERS as much as he can now to then possibly later on give a massive boost of ERS to hopefully for him get him back into the lead of the race.
Tom Gordian, meanwhile, is looking to try and get Checo for take 2. What is it going to be the case though? Checo using his ERS to try and get himself back away as Tom is going to get close. He's going to have to go around the outside. However, just look at the difference. Those soft tyres are not working for Checo. They're just not able to gather enough grip yet.
Yeah, the DRS obviously helping the Alpine of Tom going out there, but that was a nice clean move there from the Alpine driver to make it now 6 and 7 for the team.
Indeed. I don't know how much more really than P7 Tom can actually get though, knowing the fact that distinct lack of any kind of safety cars. We had a VSC earlier on obviously for JDM, but that was it.
Yeah, very much true. And is the gap between Scott and Vapid close enough to maybe see some more action? It's a little bit closer than
Look
last
at
lap.
the...
He's going to be...
I think...
He's not quite using his ERS, so maybe he's going to be harvesting for maybe another lap here.
Interesting to note though that look at the ERS difference between Scott and Vapid.
Yeah.
Vapid's on almost nothing now in terms of ERS. He's on 20%. Scott meanwhile is on about 40.
Yeah. Scott knows that he can if he stays close, he can make Vapid use up his ERS, and then when the moment comes, he can indeed pounce with the assistance of DRS as well.
There's Viper shoe with a penalty now as well, but he doesn't really have to worry about anything really going on. Checo is actually, however, Checo trying to come back. He's going to use all of the DRS he has available. He's going to have almost nothing as he goes down towards turn 1. Not close enough.
Yeah, Tom just defending there for all that he had there into the first corner. It'll be interesting to see if anything comes from that, or if that is indeed deemed as clean racing now.
That one was alright. I didn't see anything wrong with that particular move, as I wonder if Scott's going to try and go for a move into 130R again. Obviously we didn't see the first one he made in Angelo.
I think, yeah, he's waiting for that moment to pounce, I believe. Is that going to be this lap? Does he get a good exit out of the chicane? He's a little bit closer. Does he use the ERS? He's not using that much of it, to be honest.
He's not using it at all at the moment. He's saved it again. Like, is he waiting really? Is he trying to put enough pressure on Vapid where he'll run wide, potentially pick up a penalty? Because obviously we know track limits around here are a little bit on the... They're not the most forgiving.
Maybe he's waiting for maybe the penultimate lap to try and make his overtake.
Indeed. While this has all been going on, I have noticed that Shut Metal hasn't really gained all that much. He's slowly gaining, but he's not really gaining a lot. I wonder if that's because they used to constantly have a DRS.
Yeah, that could maybe be part of it, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the gap does close, or if it indeed does stay at around 5 seconds as it is now.
That's indeed going to be very curious as to how that works. I mean, he is gaining I wonder at some point, he's only on 7 lap old tyres, so I suppose he's still got a few laps really to make an impression, but it's going to be very curious to see, because obviously he's about 5 seconds back. I believe I've just seen him make a tiny mistake there, because it was just about under 5 seconds. He's dropped back to 5.4 again now, so I believe he's made a little bit of a mistake somewhere there. I am noticing though, I think the weather has stayed clear, but is there more clouds in the sky now than what there was?
It is potentially a little bit more cloudy than it was at the start of the race. And Scott, again, he's not using his ERS at all.
Yeah, he's waiting for penultimate lap, I do believe. You are correct on that front.
He is just wearing down Vapid's battery, really, as well. Oh, that's maybe a little bit of a mistake there from Vapid in the S's section, and Scott does look that little bit closer to the Williams car going through the first sector here.
Yeah, indeed, Vapid put a little bit of pressure on himself for that mistake there, and that's really what Scott, all he has to do is force the Williams driver in front to make mistakes, but we know how consistent Vapid can be when there are no issues or anything that happens around him, which he ends up getting involved in from, obviously we know from Spain, obviously what happened in Spain, but it was very much a case in point of he's often very consistent, he just has to keep scoring.
That is very much the case. Vapid doesn't need to take many risks here, whereas Scott will be desperate to get this race victory here.
He's going to go, he's going to be close as they come up towards 130R once again. Through we go and into the Casio triangle once again for lap 24 and 25. It's about crunch time for Scott. Can he make the move anytime soon? It's Vapid though. He's not using the RS deployment, realising that Scott's not making the moves. Now he's using the battery a little bit. He's a tiny bit. Looking at the gap, it doesn't look like he's able to really make anything really stick at the moment. And it looks like, yep, it still remains the same.
Yeah, again, Scott not using his ERS. He is just waiting for that moment, and when that moment comes, is he going to be able to make the move, or will Vapid have the answer?
At this point though, Scott's got to realise at one point, because of the fact that he was, obviously he's on 1 lap older tyres, at what point does, obviously we know they're very hard, they're a durable tyre, but he maybe needs to make the move at some point, because obviously we know that his tyres are 1 lap older.
He does have to go for it sooner rather than later, or he might not take his chance really.
Very much could be the case of what actually ends up happening. However, we're still looking at the same thing really going on, because as I say, it's mostly went static throughout this field. I'm quite surprised by at least a few of those crashes that we haven't seen, like especially for JDM, that we didn't see a safety car for that one, like very early on the race.
Yeah, that is very true indeed, but we are seeing that Scott is just maybe not as close as he'd want to be right now to the back of the Williams of Vapid.
I think Scott had the initial pace on strategy in terms of when the tyres were fresher, but as the tyres have gone on, Vapid has come more alive in the race.
Yeah, he's got to make the move soon, I believe.
It's going to have to be this lap.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there'll be another opportunity. This lap or next lap around will be the final chances he may well potentially will have. And it's going to be very curious to see how this all plays out now.
Very much so. This is going to be the most crucial part of the race now. And to honestly see if this action does continue on to the final laps of the race.
Well, Vapid's not going to get away from it anytime soon, as we have a lapped car in front. I believe that is his teammate.
Yeah.
Tom Gorian is going for fastest lap, I believe. He's in P7. I think he's going for softs.
Could this? Oh, never mind. As that is the Williams of Fresh round. And yeah, Tom Gorian could be going for that fastest lap, as you do say.
Indeed so, as it looks like, do you have a yellow flag once again? Who is that? Was that Viper, I believe?
Potentially so, and I think Scott, he is now using his ERS down the back straight, and is he going to go for the move into the chicane now? He's getting closer and closer to the back of Vapid. Is it going to be side by side into the chicane? He's gone for the move.
It's going to be, there's going to be contact. There's contact. There's contact. Oh my word, that's it. Come on lads, keep it clean, keep it clean. Now the elbows have come out. It is the final lap of the Grand Prix. Yeah, Vapid is out of ERS deployment, so is Scott going to be in a second. As Scott is so fresh, he's got a 10-second time penalty for corner cut, and I don't know what has happened there. He is into the pit lane entry.
Yeah, Vapid stays ahead. Has Scott
I think something I think that was Scott realising he had to make a move. However, that was almost a Senna and Prost moment.
Yes, I was definitely thinking that as they were heading into the chicane there. But is there going to be one last dramatic moment into the final chicane for this final lap?
Well, as I say, if Scott wants it, he's going to have to make it stick sometime soon.
That is very much true, and it is going to be crucial now, as we've only got one more sector to go now as we head towards the spoon corner for the final time.
As we go through into the exit sequence of this spoon curve, heading up towards the shot. Medals now picked up a penalty as well. As I've noticed there, I think one of the Alpines has spun once again. I believe that was Kirby. He's had a little bit of an incident once again. as we head towards the final corner. Is Scott going to be able to do it? He's going to have to send it if he wants it, but it's way too far back. I think. Yeah, it's not worked. Vapid is going to take race victory here and take a further lead in the championship, and it will be Scott who will be finished P2. However, there may be some contentiousness over that final lap. That penultimate lap, I wonder. Shot Medal comes home in P3 to take the final spot, and it's going to be Angelo P4. But yeah, as you were saying there.
Yeah, potentially it could be maybe something that does get sent to the stewards. Who knows at this moment, but we will see. We will find out after the race finishes.
Indeed, obviously that is in the hands of the stewards. I do not have any say in that, and I don't believe neither do you, Cal. So obviously we don't have any real say about how that goes on. Checo's strategy didn't really pay off in the end, noting as well, going on the soft compound tyres, 10 laps on those tyres, and I believe those probably are very worn. Indeed, yeah, they are.
Those do look pretty worn, to be fair there, but yeah, the safety car there did not come in this race for Tom Gorian, unfortunately for him. Unfortunately for him.
Yeah, once again. At least he got points on this occasion, I suppose. There's a little bit of a silver lining in that one. Scott gets driver of the day. We'll see who gets driver of the day. I'll also give that in about a few minutes once we've gone through to the results. But it is Vapid once again on top step of the podium. A familiar face. Carrying Williams once again. His teammate, I believe, also getting points in this race. Alongside him is Scott, obviously, lap 26. He had a go, trying to have a go at the Williams driver. And in third place, Shot Middle, obviously quite a quiet race for himself. The alternate strat not fully working out for the Alfa Romeo driver, but that is your top three.
Very much.
Very interesting. Obviously, that race, not really as exciting as we thought it was going to be, but that's not going to bother Vapid in the slightest. However, your results, it is going to be Vapid from second place in the grid who wins. Scott will finish in P2 with Shot Medal at P3, where he started after that terrible start, brings his way back up to P3. Angelo starts and finishes where he was, P4, Vapid, Viper Shoe in P5, Kirby in P6, a few spins costing him. Checo in 7th with an interesting alternate strategy which didn't really work out for the Aston Martin driver in the end there. Tom Gorian in 8th from pole position, not the best result for him. He was hoping for a little bit more with So Fresh in 9th, the last of the finishers. It was then Alfa Romeo of Button in 10th, Fins in 11th with JDM in 12th. So driver of the day is, I think, going to indeed go. I think driver of the day is going to go to. I think I'm going to go with Vapid on this one.
Yeah, there's a few contenders. Obviously, Scott going from P5 to P2. But yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you on that one.
And yeah, so with that said and done, we will round off mostly the stream. I just have to quickly go into see what we have next week. Obviously, we know the calendar got moved forward a bit because of added races added. We are heading to the Mexican Grand Prix for what will be round number 16. So, unless you have any further words to say, Cal, we will round off the stream.
Yeah, so obviously another race complete, and yeah, some dramatic endings once more to this race, and yeah, looking forward to next time out at Mexico.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you very much once again, Cal, for joining me in the commentary box. I look forward to seeing.
It has been a pleasure.
So that will be it for this week, and we will see you for the Mexican